Of course, in Washington, D.C., it's basically paralyzed up there. It's Mueller Mania Day. And according to social media, things are getting crazy. Things are getting crazy. Democrats are reading. Mueller doesn't know answers to anything. Things are just getting all kinds of crazy in Washington, D.C., and helping us break down some of what's been going on in today's hearing, and then where we're going just with the 2020 campaign. Political strategist joining us on the program, Dr. Christopher Metzler. Dr. Metzler, how are you today?
My pleasure. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Glad to have you on the program. I don't know how much of the Mueller hearings you've been watching, but it doesn't seem to be going the way, at least according to my Twitter feed, it doesn't seem to be going the way that the Democrats had hoped it would go.
It is an unmitigated disaster. The Mueller is confused. He doesn't know what he wrote. He keeps asking for the question to be repeated. It is an unmitigated disaster. But, it is what the Democrats wanted, and it is what they got.
Yeah,
it's a disaster.
I'm reading through some of the tweets that have been sent out on this one, and it doesn't appear as though Robert Mueller sat in on any, maybe a few of the interviews, 500 interviews that were done. He said that he maybe sat in on a few, very few of those meetings, that he couldn't speak to the Steele dossier and who was behind that. It seems as though, and I don't know what you're taking away from this, it kind of seems as though Mueller was just a figurehead and he was the guy who everyone was supposed to rally around.
Well, it appears to me that Mueller phoned this entire thing in. He has done nothing. He knew nothing. He simply is a figurehead, in my view. This is the problem with swamp politics in Washington. Look, if this guy wrote the report, if he is this legendary prosecutor, as they claim he is, why is he such a blithering idiot this morning? How long has he had to prepare for this? And then he has his counsel sitting next to him who has to point out the footnotes. Are you kidding me?
Well, I think we know why now he needed a lawyer to sit next to him.
Exactly. This guy, with all due respect to his career, he has ended his career in flames. It is a disaster. It's a shame. And what it shows is that, in fact, there was a coordinated attempt to take the president down. That much is clear. Dude, you're the special prosecutor, and you can't tell me what was done? That makes no sense. In what universe does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, obviously we got hours and hours of this to go. What do you think at the end of the day? It doesn't seem as though anything new is going to come out of this. And I think, I've been obviously following you on Twitter, and I think you and I are in agreement on this. This is going to be a big yawner of the day, that nothing was going to come out of this. For the president now, what does this do for Republicans, and what does this do for the president after today?
Well, I think for the president, this closes the chapter. And Democrats are going to continue, blah, blah, blah. But for the president, this closes the chapter. Mueller has proven his point. He needs to say nothing more about it. We're done. We need to move on, and we need to continue to make the country and keep the country as great as he's made it during his time. And I've got to really congratulate the Republicans on that committee today, who asked very pointed questions rather than giving these stupid speeches from people like Sheila Jackson Lee and Hank and all of those other idiots.
Well, and as he said, the Democrats, for the president, he may be able to close the chapter, the squad and some of these other Democrats, they're going to keep pushing for impeachment. Do you think that they are going to move away from the whole Mueller deal and just go after the president for mean tweets, and that's what they're going to use impeachment for?
And I think pretty much that's what they're going to do. If they think that this was supposed to be a John Dean moment in which the American people are now going to be convinced that the president should be impeached, they have lost whatever is left of their minds, number one. And by the way, on the whole mean tweet piece, I'm sorry, it was Tlaib who said, impeach this MF, and now she's crying that the president said mean things to her. I mean, come on, this is a joke. This is a joke.
Yeah, I think so. Well, and not only that, but you had, was it Tlaib? Yeah, Tlaib, who wanted to deport the president. Did you see that? Which I thought was wrong. I guess Nancy Pelosi now has to have another vote condemning Tlaib now this time, right?
Right. She needs to. There's already there was this little weak vote that condemned Omar, except it didn't name her.
Right.
I mean, what are you kidding me? But see, what this shows is the fact that from a conservative perspective, from a Republican perspective, we are concerned about issues. From the Democratic standpoint, they are concerned about drama. And Cory Booker, the manly man who wants to punch the president in the gut. Are you kidding me, Cory? Yeah, okay. There we have it. So
whenever Cory Booker's acting tough, it's almost like when Beto tries to act tough. It's right. Funny. It's funny to see.
Yeah, Spartacus.
Visiting with Dr. Christopher Metzler here on the Chad Hasty Show. I do want to ask you, and obviously, yeah, we could probably talk about this Mueller stuff all day, but I think most people are done with it. I just think the American people are so over it. I want to get your thoughts on the upcoming, and obviously they're going to happen next week, the upcoming Democrat debates. What are your expectations? What do you think we're going to hear? And do you think that for Joe Biden or even maybe Bernie Sanders, there are some real risks going into these next debates for them?
Yeah, I think for Biden, first of all, Biden just is completely out of touch. To me, he and Mueller have a lot in common. So there is a concerted effort within the party, particularly by Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, et cetera, to take him down. I think that the Democrats fundamentally believe that they want the all-woman ticket of Kamala and Elizabeth Warren. Good luck. And so I think, though, for Biden, there is definitely a risk. Bernie has lost so much of his steam. He doesn't have the influence that he had in 2016, and he's never going to get it. There is a risk for Joe Biden unless he is completely prepared. But even so, he is starting to fade into the background. Harris is starting to take the lead. Listen, I don't care whoever eventually becomes the nominee, not one of them has a fighting chance against the president because their so-called issues, raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, do they understand how job creation works and how detrimental that is going to be? Because it is going to cost employers so much money that they're going to end up cutting jobs. So there is that issue. The whole Medicare for all stuff, these issues are just ridiculous. And so I think going into the debate, I think what we will see, first of all, I don't understand why Don Lemon, who's not a journalist, is even moderating the debate, but whatever. It's CNN. What do you expect?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, but and that's that's the way I look at it. Look, I think as Republicans, we have to be 100% focused on the issues and not be distracted by these nonsensical games that the Democrats are playing. We have to run on the accomplishment of the president, which are significant across all communities. This notion that the president is, I had a very feisty debate with Nancy Pelosi's daughter, who asked me to admit that she says, well, why wouldn't you admit that the president is racist? My response was, because he's not. Move on. So you're really trying to drag the president down. We have to focus on the issues, avoid the distractions. We have to punch hard. Our message has to be consistent. We have to speak to the issues that affect the American people, not the chattering class in D.C. The stuff that goes on in D.C., the stuff that they talk about in D.C., does not put food on our table. It doesn't do any of that kind of stuff. It doesn't keep us from the standpoint of employed. It doesn't help with insurance. It doesn't do any of those things. We need to look at the pocketbook issues. And by the way, this whole conversation about there's this big thing going on about how heartless the president is because he's going to cut a significant amount of people off of this food stamp program. What they fail to tell you is that a lot of people who are going to be cut also are double dipping because they're receiving a lot of federal assistance in a number of places. It is a rule that is going to be put forth. And so, again, my view is, fine, say that, but then give us the facts and let us decide. I don't care what your opinion is, CNN, MSNBC, whomever. What I want to know is what are the facts, and all of the facts, not your opinion.
Right. Visiting with Dr. Chris Metzler here on the Chad Hasty Show. Before we let you go, and we enjoy having you here on the program, tell folks about your book.
Yeah, my book is Divided We Stand, The Search for America's Soul. It explains to people why the president was elected, but that's only a small portion of it. I argue forcefully for term limits because I think that's part of the problem. I look at white supremacy and Black Lives Matter. I discuss them in detail, but most importantly, I talk about the Constitution. I am a constitutional scholar, and so I talk about the Constitution and originalism, and how, we really don't need these judges interpreting the Constitution. We need these judges looking at the plain language of the Constitution. It is not a living, breathing document that changes with the whim of whomever. Like I tell people all the time, if you don't like what's in the Constitution, there's a process for that. It's called a constitutional amendment. Do that rather than try to legislate the Constitution. That was never the intention.
Dr. Christopher Metzler, appreciate your time today. I'm sure we'll be visiting often throughout the campaign season.
Absolutely.
And it looks like Mueller is back to not answering any questions, so I'll let you get back to that.
All right, thanks. You're so kind.
Have a good one. That's Dr. Christopher Metzler here on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk, KFYO. You can follow him on Twitter at Dr. Chris Metzler on Twitter.